Behind every amazing flavor is an amazing human who has perfected their craft. Welcome to Flavors Unknown, a behind-the-scenes look at new flavors and the chefs, pastry chefs, and bartenders who create them, with your host, Emmanuel.
Hey there, welcome to another episode of the Flavors Unknown podcast. I am your host, Emmanuel LaRoche. I have been involved in the food industry in Europe and here in the US for more than 20 years now. And every other week, I interview trending chefs, pastry chefs, and bartenders to discover their secrets behind the scene and new ingredients and flavors they are experimenting with. If you are just joining today for the first time, last week my guest was Chef Johnny Sparrow from Reverie in Washington, D.C. Please subscribe to the podcast to make sure that you are not missing any upcoming episodes. I have a special guest today. I am really pleased to welcome Chef Kim Alter from Nightbird in San Francisco to the show. Besides describing the difficulties of opening a restaurant in San Francisco, Chef Kim Alter reflects on being a woman chef in 2019, the inspiration behind her themed menus at Nightbird, and helium and fermentation being her latest obsessions. Hi, Chef. I'm really pleased to have you on Flavors Unknown. I do not have a lot of women chefs, so it's a special moment for me.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to talk with you.
Thank you. So you opened your restaurant Nightbird and the bar Linden Room in San Francisco in 2016. Opening a restaurant in San Francisco seems to be a very difficult task. You even mentioned that it might be sometimes as difficult, even more, than opening a restaurant in New York. So what were the obstacles that you had to overcome?
There were so many. I don't even know where to start, but I would have to, it took me, I want to say over almost 2 years to physically open, from the point where I signed a lease and then the doors were open to the public. And if you think about that, if I was paying rent, which is in upwards of, $15,000 a month, how could a business even survive? So luckily I found great landlords who helped me, and I didn't need to pay rent until we were kind of at least financially capable. And, the city, I'm in the middle of expanding. I got permits back in September of 2018. We are now it's August, and I'm still in the process, and they have quoted me till January of 2020 of going through permitting. And it's just for a 700 square foot space to expand my bar. And it's just how, if I was paying rent on that space without revenue coming in, how would that happen? So I would say that's the main thing, is just the length going through the city of San Francisco. Also, there's so much construction going on here that it's really hard to get a construction firm to help small projects. So it takes a lot of effort and a lot of money.
And from your point of view, do you think that it's even more difficult than you being a woman?
I could probably say that. I definitely got treated differently when I was dealing with the construction crew that worked with me originally. They would definitely bully me, come in with 3 big men with hard hats, and I got called a bitch. And
wow.
Yeah, I was there, and I'm paying them, right? I was there every morning, because they didn't have project managers, and I was trying to manage, and it got really difficult. So, it would be a lie if I said that I didn't have if I didn't get treated differently because I was a woman. I unfortunately started bringing my partner, who's a man, who's 6'4", and bring him in to every meeting. And that's the only way I felt like things would get accomplished.
That's sad.
I know, it's so sad, yeah. But
wow.
That's life.
So looking back, do you think that you have done things differently? Or, there's always people listening to the show, and they are into maybe, a story of that, that they want to open a restaurant or they want to expand. So any advices that you have for even a young woman, chef that are contemplating opening a restaurant?
If I was to say I wouldn't change anything, that would be insane. Every day I would probably have changed something I would have done, whether it was, making sure I looked over my plans better so there weren't change orders, whether, maybe I wouldn't even have opened in San Francisco. Who knows? every, I think, process in my life, for sure, there's going to be an evolution from it. It's a constant word I use. I always want to grow. I always want to learn. I want to evolve. So yeah, I pretty much would always want to change a lot of the things that happened throughout the process of me opening the restaurant for sure.
And maybe bring your boyfriend or a friend guy with is 6'4" and
yeah, exactly.
with you on meetings.
Bring my bodyguard. But yeah, I mean, it's just, you learn. It was my first time from start to finish opening up a restaurant. And so, there's a big learning curve. And now in the past few months, I have 2 different old cooks that I've had and sous chefs who are in the process of opening the restaurant. And I make sure to call them. I have them come to Nightbird. I'm like, here is all the information I know. Make sure you ask this. Make sure you do this. Get a lawyer. Do this. All the things that weren't given to me to make their life easier. So yeah.
That you can guide them a bit. That's great.
Exactly.
So if you had to, or if you are looking to open even a new concept, so would you still do it in San Francisco or maybe try to do it, somewhere else?
We just got approved for a loan and we were going to look for another building to buy and do a bar. And I don't know, I've been traveling a lot. I've been in LA, New York, and Taipei in the last month. And I really think that it could be easier to open in LA, even though I'm not located there. But, I love San Francisco. I've been here for 25 years. I don't want to totally crap on the city that I own a house in, I own a business in. I love the community. I love Hayes Valley, the farmers, everything. Just the city. I wish that they could work with us small businesses a little bit better to make it easier and not like handouts. Like we're not asking for handouts like Twitter got, all the big companies don't have to pay certain taxes. We just want, come by and, help us clean up the streets, help do all the things that, you say that you're supposed to do to make our life easier, get us through permitting faster, that kind of stuff.
So talking about, women in the kitchen, it seems that it's becoming easier for women, to work in kitchen in 2019. Do you think that women have access to the same opportunities still nowadays?
I like to hope and think so, that women have the same opportunities as of right now with all the movements that are going on, with all of the strong women who are in this business, all the voices. I mean, Dominique Crenn, Tracy Desjardins, Nancy Oakes, Melissa Perillo. I mean, there's Suzette Gresham. There's so many strong women chefs in San Francisco. They own their businesses. They run their businesses and they're teaching the next generation. So I like to think that people are looking at chefs now as a whole, not just as a woman chef and as a man chef, but as someone who's talented and smart and can operate a business, whether you're a man or a woman. So I hope so.
What still needs to happen, in that topic, from your point of view?
Something that I dealt with as an issue. And one of, as I was saying, I'm helping one of my old sous chefs try to open a business, and she's doing it with her other partner who is a woman as well. And it was really difficult finding investment as a woman. And I have been quoted saying this before. I even was told that, my food was amazing. My business plan was amazing. My location was awesome, but they didn't want to invest in me because they were afraid I would get too emotional. because I was a woman.
This is like, the script from the 50s.
No,
it's
I know.
Like unbelievable, or the 70s. It's wow.
And I had cooked a dinner for them, as here, this is what we're going to offer at Nightbird. What do you think? And, that's what a lot of chefs do when they're trying to get investment. And when he said that to me after the meal, I was in shock. I just, thanked him and left and was just, couldn't believe that was said to me. It seemed like they just wanted a dinner at a cheap cost with a chef coming in their house. And then that was his reasoning for not wanting to invest. But who knows? I never reached back out to him to ask what his thought process behind that was.
Let's talk a bit about your concept. So you have a restaurant, which is Nightbird, which I've been there. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Decor, a lot of natural elements, the woods, gray color, and you have, touch of colors as well. And then you have, the bar, which is a very small bar that I haven't been to. And I'm next time I'm going there, the Linden Room.
Yes.
So how would you describe both concepts to our listener?
Well, when I was thinking about the space and what I wanted a small bar, which is Linden Room is very small. I think there's 4 seats on one side, 4 seats on the other. Someplace you could just go before dinner and have a martini and then go sit at the restaurant, or come in as a neighbor and just have a nice cocktail, sit, listen to some records, and then go, along your day. And then Nightbird is a tasting menu restaurant, which we kind of changed the theme I think when you came, it was colors, and every different course was a color, kind of in the thought of pride it was June, I think. And then right now it's a summer menu, and I'm about to go into a menu called F Cancer because one of my girlfriends has been diagnosed, and I'm going to do a menu that's like all the foods that you should be eating to stay healthy, and then donate to, her so she can help get through it. Yeah. So we just try to have a theme and try to make it fun. And we've never reran a menu. So we kind of always try to come up with something new.
And how often do you change the tasting menu?
I was traveling a lot last month, so it ran a little bit long, but like normally somewhere between 2 to 3 weeks is normally when we change menus.
So a chef can leave a restaurant for 3 weeks. Were you nervous about like leaving and going into all, these different destinations, even like abroad, and then leaving? I'm sure you have a strong team, but still, it's probably been nervous about it.
Yeah, I have actually never left the restaurant that much in the entirety of us being open. And I was actually short staffed. So I brought in some friends to help run the kitchen. But my girls, I have a full women kitchen. They are all very strong, very great. They've been with me for a while. And they just held it down while I was in Taipei and New York and stuff. But yeah, it was definitely, it's a little nerve wracking, but it's your baby and you leave and you've never been gone before. It's definitely stressful.
And everything went okay?
As far as I know.
Okay,
as far as I know.
Okay. So you can plan your next trip then.
Exactly.
So you're talking about tasting menu, and which is interesting, I think, and intriguing for me. It's like they are themed tasting menus. And you mentioned, 2 of them. How are those ideas of themes, coming about?
Obviously, we grab information or inspiration from the farmer's market. And so I base like a lot of things on what the fruits and the vegetables are going to look like at the market. And some things can be political, like we did a sanctuary menu when the Muslim ban went in and we donated to causes, or we just do a fun menu. Like at Christmas time, we did a Christmas story menu. So all of the courses were based on the movie A Christmas Story. So we kind of just sit as a group, talk about things and base what kind of product is available right now. And then, create from there. It's fun.
So it starts with the produce then, or it starts with the theme. So like, for instance, colors, that was the menu that I had the chance to, taste like 3 dishes from. So where it starts it was spring, of course. So, but you have the produce and then you decide, and because of the availability of the produce and the choices that you have, then there's like a theme that jumps your mind, or it could be the reverse. Because I'm guessing when you're talking about the one at Christmas, obviously this is the theme, Christmas, and then you have to do something around it. Or sanctuary one, I would say probably the same as well.
I would say both things. Sometimes I come up with a theme that I just really want to do, and I create around that. And then sometimes it's like right now, our menu is just called It's Summer because it's so summery and blooming at the farmers market right now. So it's really just based on what the farmers have. So it goes back and forth. I'd say it's more theme driven because we have summer for a couple months out of the year, winter for a couple months. So like after a couple weeks, it's like, okay, I can't do a summer menu for 3 months. So then we start getting like, a little bit more fun. Like it can be a tomato menu or, a citrus menu or things along those lines too. So
when you select the theme and, some ingredients and so on, so how do you put together the different courses and your menus are, fantastic. It's like poetry.
Oh, thank you.
I think the way how it's written and the names of the dishes and, the flow and everything. So I'm really curious how you put this together.
I just really wanted something that was a little bit more lighthearted and like where you could come and sit and there aren't tablecloths and we're not too precious and the music might be a little bit louder, but you're still getting the refinement of food that you would get, in a more upscale restaurant. So I think the theme adds a little bit of fun to it. And there's a story, you say a poetry and, like how Dominique Crenn writes poetry for her menus. I wanted like a story to translate. Some hold really special to my heart. Like I did a menu about my mom going blind and then how she was able to regain her vision near the end. She had a surgery. And so the menu kind of translated. It was very blurry and beige. And then all of a sudden bright colors, things you could eat with your hands. So a lot of times it just comes from the mood I'm in and where I'm at emotionally and just kind of comes from all different places.
And in order for you to be able to execute exactly what comes into your mind, is it like critical to master, the techniques first And then after that, you can really explore, like the different, let's say the space and your imaginations and the ingredients and so on.
Yeah, I think that for the most part, I mean, I'm definitely, like I said, I still learn every day, but most of the times when I'm applying a technique, it's something that I'm already familiar with or something that I've already practiced. And then I apply that technique to my idea. I've never wanted an idea and then been like, let's try this technique I've never tried before. So yeah, we always try to make sure that the technique's mastered and then apply it to the produce that's available. And then hopefully it goes in line with the menu. But yeah, I always try to utilize new, when I was just in Taipei, I saw a lot of interesting new techniques when I was eating out. And after sitting there eating with my partner and being like, I wonder how we did that. And then kind of come back to the restaurant and play around a little bit and be like, okay, so I think this is how we did it. And then I put my own spin on it is normally at least how I'm growing now as a chef. Not just, when you work under chefs, you learn everything. And then when you become a chef, you're traveling and working with other peers. And that's how you kind of start your change.
So how much traveling influence your creativity?
Well, since I hadn't really traveled a lot up until these last few months because I just was always at the restaurant. I mean, I think that travel, I really think that it needs to happen a lot more than I do. Probably, hopefully more spread out next time. But travel, you get to kind of get out of your element when you're in the restaurant every day, your head's down, you're working a station, you're doing the same thing, you're seeing the same people. You kind of get a routine going. I mean, that's how you get consistency. So when you get taken out of that environment and you go and you go to Dubai and you get to see how they work with lamb brains, you're like, oh, wow, maybe I could apply this to something in San Francisco. And you start, thinking outside of the box instead of just, okay, what you see every day at the farmer's market, because you're witnessing new ingredients and techniques and environments that change the way you think.
So why Taipei?
Because I had a cook who was from Taipei and she was born there and was in the United States for a couple of years. She worked for me for a while and then moved back and just realized that, Northern California style food would probably be really successful out there. So took us about a year, and when we finally were able to make it, we did a pop-up for a few days, and it was pretty, I think everyone really enjoyed it. And so we're in the talks of possibly going out there. Taipei's environment was obviously it's very hot and humid, but it reminded me a lot of San Francisco, at least the produce and a lot of the cooking that I witnessed out there. It was awesome.
So what did you see that had a tremendous impact, on you from a food standpoint or inspiration standpoint?
The produce was beautiful. Going to the night markets, even though I would never probably have a fried blood or octopus cheese balls on my menu, it was always interesting to go out there and try different taste profiles and get, excited about something and see just how, another part of the world eats. So it was inspiring. And then we went to a couple 2 and 1 Michelin star restaurants, which of course were beautiful, had great service, had amazing food. And like I said, I kind of felt like I was in San Francisco.
And do you have anything that you have seen there that you are bringing back with you that you think that you can incorporate in some of your upcoming theme menu?
I was in the kitchen most of the time. I wasn't able to see a ton, but at least some of the markets I went to, I brought back some interesting peppers, brought back some interesting spices that I'm trying to kind of implement in our menu now without it being too, I never want to sway from what our voice is, what our brand is, but little flavors going in and out, make a difference and bring some interestingness to our menu.
So you're known to be always, pushing, boundaries, and, I listened to you talking and read a lot, and you said that you're always, striving to get better. That's great at your level, but I'm curious, how do you bring the rest of your team along, with the passion that you have for perfection? So how do you keep them motivated?
Well, it's definitely hard in San Francisco, and I think all over the country right now to find staff. We try to, from beyond even going into inspiration, just making sure that they have quality of life. They come in around 2:00 so they can have their mornings, make sure we pay them so they can have a livable wage, offer 100% of health insurance. And then side by that, obviously bringing in the best products. My cooks, even just last night, we were a little bit slower. So we do, they can do their own dishes. So one of our cooks did a deep dish with mulberries and beets and mushrooms, and we all taste it and kind of, give our opinions and work on it and edit it. I just took my whole staff to New York to cook at the James Beard House because I thought that would be an exciting trip for them. We go to farms, go to wineries, do things. We're so small. There's only 12 of us all in. We try to just really kind of be like a family.
You're talking about inspiring and motivating your team, and just want to know who were your mentors, and what did you learn from them?
I mean, I have a bunch. I always say Suzette Gresham. She's amazing. I was 19, I think, when I was in her kitchen in the 90s. She taught me base knowledge, how to act. We've stayed in contact throughout my entirety of being in San Francisco, and I lean on her all the time, emotionally, professionally, and personally. Definitely, David Kinch, Jeremy Fox. My partner in life, Ron Boyd, is an inspiration. He was one of my chefs in the past. I'd say all my friends are mentors and inspirers too, because when you're working in the kitchen, the chef's obviously an inspiration and teaches you a ton, but the person working to the side of you is the person who trains you a lot too, So I'd like to think that in the end, everyone that I surround myself with is an inspiration and a mentor.
And what best piece of advice, they gave to you?
Suzette, always was just keep your head down, keep your eyes wide open, and, work hard, and it'll pay off. David Kinch definitely, and Jeremy Fox definitely taught me about, utilization and making sure to think outside the box, and how can you make the radish as amazing as a fillet, Ron definitely taught me a lot about business and how I can watch numbers and be creative at the same time. And then taking the little bits from all of those people has kind of made me who I am now.
So we are in the summer. So what, flavors and ingredients and dishes that resonate, with summer for you?
Well, tomatoes. Right now I have heirloom tomatoes on my menu, which I only get from one farmer just because she grows the best. And we are doing a poached spot prawn that's been poached in a bay olive oil with a shrimp head sauce and a fermented cabbage packet. And it's really delicious. Corn is, corn's on my menu right now too, just with corn pudding, roasted corn, fermented corn, charred corn, and huitlacoche. Just making sure you utilize everything, make a corn cob stock, all the berries and fruits and stone fruit. We are doing a really beautiful apricot sorbet that's been infused with beeswax because we have an amazing beekeeper, and we do a honey course, and we try to utilize the beeswax, and summer is in full swing right now for us.
And you were talking before about mulberry, and I have heard as well other chefs, on the show bringing mulberry on. So is it more, I would say, trendy at the moment? Or why mulberry? I haven't heard about mulberry a lot in the past.
I think mulberries they're very particular, and in the West Coast, they don't grow as much as in Virginia, from what I understand. I got mulberries a week ago, and they're already done this week by my farmer. So some farmers only have them for a week or 2 weeks. So when you do have them, you want to get them and utilize them the best that you can.
Do you use it in dessert or as well in savory dishes?
Right now, it's just being utilized on savory. On our physical menu right now, we do have this fermented polenta, and it's called Bloody Butcher from this farm, Terra Farms. And we are putting raw and roasted mulberries on top of it. So there's this nice acidity and a little bit of sweetness. They're also pretty expensive. So because they are kind of so rare, they can only give them to so many chefs. So I was only able to get so many pints. So I can only use them on small amounts on my dishes right now.
What are the latest ingredients, that you are experimenting with, or, could almost talk about maybe an obsession at the moment, on your end?
I would definitely I like a lot of chefs right now, but I'm fermenting a lot of things. I just really love the acidity and umami that ferments bring to things. So whether it's fermented cabbage, fermented oats, fermented carrots, we take everything, and then we could ferment carrots and then juice it and utilize it as a sauce, to bring some acidity without having to add a vinegar or lemon, and salinity without having to add a ton of salt. So I really think that just by fermenting different products and utilizing their own natural, sugars and starches is really interesting right now.
So some processes that you are using. I mean, do you use a lot of, let's say, specific tools, in your cooking, like sous vide, for instance? Is it something a lot of other chefs are using, or you would rather not, play with those type of, let's say, tools and equipment?
I mean, I definitely have circulators and we sous vide a lot of things, but I tend to only use it for certain things. I never like to really do it with meat. I like to kind of cook in the old school process. I like to braise in the old school so you get the juices. I will sous vide when it's appropriate, but like I want to still teach the cooks that I have now how to cook things properly, and then they can apply those techniques with things like sous vide. If we're just teaching people to put something in a bag, we're kind of not doing our due diligence in training the people on how things have always been cooked. So I try to actually teach them like how to cook things, like how we cook meat. We kiss it on the stove and then we go in and out of the oven slowly. And so it's emulating what sous vide's like. Everyone who eats here always thinks our meat sous vide. And I'm always like, nope, we just cook it slow and low. We go in and out of the oven. We try to cook things, the way that we were taught. So I only apply modern chemicals and sous vide techniques with things that really will benefit the product. If it's I never do something just to do it or to make it easier.
Okay. So do you have an example of what you are using sous vide with?
We have a poussin on the menu right now, and we debone it, we re-roll it, and I will sous vide it for about 30 minutes to kind of set the meat glue that we use inside of it so that it will stick together when we cook it. But we don't take it all the way. It's just to kind of set the transglutamate. Or I will, in the bar, we sous vide a lot of fruit with liquor, but we want to keep it at a regulated temperature so the alcohol doesn't cook off. So we'll sous vide plums right now with mezcal and hoa santa, and, to infuse that flavor, but not to lose the booze.
If there's any ingredients that, that you are always working with that are really irreplaceable to you?
Alliums, onions, shallots, garlic, all those things. I put them in almost everything just because I think that there's so much. You could do sweet, you could do bitter, you could do umami. There's just so many things that can come out from that family. Yes, exactly. So I just definitely utilize them in a lot of things.
Can you give us an example? Have you worked with them as well in, let's say, sweet application and dessert dishes?
I'm trying to think. I've definitely done. It's nothing that I think ever went on the menu, but I've done like a garlic ice cream before. I'd like to really make burnt onion stocks. And I think I've made a burnt onion ice before and added it to a really like a sweet acidic sorbet. So it kind of had bitterness and sweetness. But for the most part, I want people to eat something and not be like, that's interesting. I want them to be like, that's delicious. So normally if someone saw onions in dessert, they're like, yeah, no thanks. But
there's limits for,
there's limits.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always picking the brain of the chef that I have, on the show, and trying to think about like a dish that's people can, maybe reproduce or do at home. So it's the summer, and you have beautiful, salads on your menu. So I was thinking maybe asking you about a summer salad, and what would be your suggestion for how people can prepare a summer salad at home? And I would say giving a little bit of the Kim Alter fingerprint on it.
I will definitely go to the farmer's market so you can kind of pick out everything on your own. I really love grilled or seared little gems. And I was just at the farmer's market this morning and grabbed some little gems. You can cut them in half, grill them or sear them in your outside or inside on your stove. And then same with peaches, charring peaches. There's so much sugar in them. You could get a little bit of char to give like a bitter sweetness, and then just like a charred peach salad, mash up some of those peaches as the vinaigrette with a little bit of lemon juice. Super simple. And like get some burrata from the cheesemonger, and just like a burrata grilled little gem with some like charred and pickled peaches would, I think, be really refreshing and very summery.
I mean, you're talking about a burrata, and so what would be the best location, best place to, to buy very good burrata?
Well, in San Francisco, definitely we go to the Ferry Building all the time, and there's Cowgirl Creamery, and but Whole Foods even, like, we have Rainbow, and just getting a really pretty burrata from Italy, and with products that are, kind of perfect as they are, taking it out, cutting it in half, a little bit of salt, pepper, and olive oil, and it's perfect, That's why I think it's so easy to cook at home, and so many people don't, and I don't understand why, because you can literally just take it out of the package, cut it in half, put some salt on it, and you're good. You could do that with some tomatoes and balsamic. And you know, there's a really healthy, delicious salad for a hot night. I think that you need to buy the quality products, and quality products cost money because they're artisan and they're coming from the best cows, you know, and that cheese is, you know, made by someone who spent their whole life making it. So sometimes spending that extra $2 is going to change the entire salad because it's just cheese, you know, and getting the tomato from the farmer's market and cutting it in half. It might be $1 more than you would get at Safeway, but it's going to be this beautiful tomato and you're paying for the quality. So I think buying the best ingredients is number one when you're doing something simple.
So go to your local farmers markets. That's very important.
Yes.
So when you are not in your restaurant or prepping some of the let's say recipes and product for your partner at the bar, or thinking about like a new menu inspiration, I think that you are as well spending some time to selling your service in terms of, you know, chef and consultancy, right? You're doing some consultancy work. Can you talk to us a little bit about this? If someone wants to get some inspiration or work with you?
Yeah, we kind of consult across the board. I just spoke with a company today that's looking for some R&D. So R&D is always really fun because, well, we want to align ourselves with companies that think alike. So this company that we spoke with is a very, you know, trying to utilize waste and turn it into something delicious. And we are going to hopefully come in and be able to create some products to get people inspired to use their product. We've also consulted on restaurants when maybe their numbers aren't in line, or maybe they just need a little bit of, you know, inspiration in the kitchen, and we can come back and kind of like put a couple dishes on and, you know, get the staff like thinking about new ways. And we've done things whether it's like a month or a year of coming in and just kind of changing things. But I think across the board, it's kind of getting you out of my comfort zone of being in the kitchen and going into another place and using my brain to think outside of the box and make something new and exciting. And that again gets me thinking about my restaurant as well. So it's always nice to kind of be in someone else's kitchen for a minute, or be in a company that's trying to create something new that's going to help the world. And I like to be a part of that.
So you're talking about, you know, waste, which is a very important, obviously, topic, and sustainability, you know, nowadays. What do you think about the movement that Chef Dominique Crane created with Wake Up?
I mean, I was actually at that discussion, and I unfortunately didn't get to hear hers because I was cooking for it. But she's got such a loud voice right now and people are paying attention to her. So the fact that she's using it for good, I think is amazing. I think that chefs have more of a voice now than they ever had, whether that's because of TV or because of, you know, the celebrityism of it. And the fact that we're trying to use our voice for good, whether that's sustainability, climate change, you know, SNAP, making, you know, feeding kids, all these things that we can bring attention to is good. So I support 100% anyone who wants to do that. It's important.
Absolutely. And what are you doing at the level of your restaurant when it comes to waste? Any things that you're doing, you know, with byproducts, or, you know, that what would be considered byproduct in the past, but in fact that you are integrating into your recipe and your dishes?
So we do 10 courses at Nightbird, and we have 5 what we call kind of proper courses and 5 what we call reflection courses. And those reflections are normally used, I don't want to say the byproduct, but product that we are trying to edit and not put on the plate. Or like I was telling you about that tomato and spot prawn dish. So the reflection course after that is a spot prawn broth. And then we took some burnt onion broth and then used some burnt rice broth and then made a cracker out of the rice. And then so we're serving a warm broth of used shells and onion skins that would normally be thrown away, and make it into something delicious for someone to drink after they had that first course before they go into their next. So we try to really utilize everything. Even like when we juice things, we turn the pulp into something. Like I was saying, we ferment carrots and we juice them. We then take that pulp and we turned it into a miso. Then we dehydrated it and made it into a salt to sprinkle on top of a cracker. So all these things are constant like thoughts in our heads of how we can utilize something that would be thrown away.
And you call them reflection courses, correct? So why this name?
It's going to mimic something that you just ate. And it's also a time to kind of like reflect on what you just ate and what you are eating. And like, if people are interested in our theory and talking about the whole sustainability side, and I don't want to bang people's heads with like education when they're trying to enjoy like a anniversary meal. But if someone wants to sit there and talk about it, like we're super open to being like, yeah, this is our thought process and this is what we're trying to do to like make our carbon footprint and our waste like better than other people's.
And Chef, thank you so much for your time. And I want to finish the interview with, in fact, 5 rapid fire questions. So you ready for them?
Okay. Uh-oh.
So no, that's fine. Yeah. I'm curious to hear, what is Kim Alter's favorite guilty pleasure food?
Guilty pleasure food. I mean, lately it's been dumplings, and dumplings, I guess it's guilty because I'm trying not to eat gluten right now. So like if I can just eat like a bowl of dumplings, I'm super excited.
Okay.
I don't know if it's a guilty or not. For me, it is.
Can you give me 3 dishes that you could not live without cooking or eating?
A noodle dish for sure, because like I just love noodles, whether it's pasta, just very simple butter and garlic, or like rice noodles from a Thai restaurant. Also, just like brown rice and kimchi. I could eat brown rice, kimchi, and vegetables every day. And then probably, I mean, I love ice cream. So it would probably be those 3 things that I couldn't live without. And I always kind of like, whether it's family meal or something on my menu, I love the texture and temperature of ice cream. I love again, texture of noodles, and just they're calming to me. They're my comfort food.
Okay. So you're talking about ice cream. I have to ask you, yeah, what flavors are in ice cream?
At the restaurant right now, we have a marshmallow ice cream on the menu because it's kind of like a play on s'mores. But at my house, my mom was just visiting and she can't eat dairy right now. So she brought this like dairy-free Bananas Foster, and I'm like addicted to it now. So it's like a cashew milk chocolate caramel. So I'm still calling it ice cream, but it's kind of like fake, but it's delicious.
Okay. So you and I are going on a little Flavors Unknown tasting trek in San Francisco. Which are the 5 places that you will take me to?
If you've never been here, I would definitely go to Anchor, which is this cute little oyster fish house in the Castro. It's very small. I think maybe 20 seats, and you can just get a bowl of clams and some shrimp. It's delicious. I like old steakhouses. So, I mean, House of Prime Rib would be someplace I would take somebody because it's always the same and it's delicious. You can get a martini and a steak and it's great. Kin Cow, I had such a good meal there a few weeks ago. Pim is great. Megan is great. And like their food, they're getting quality ingredients from the farmer's market and putting it on the plate with like their heritage. I think it's awesome. On the fancier version, Avery, I think Rodney's doing great things. He's an awesome chef. It's a little tasty menu restaurant over in the Fillmore. So I think it's like, that's kind of a really nice, I think that's 4 restaurants right now, but you got some history, some ethnic, some fancy. And the 5th place, yeah, if someone had never been there, I'd definitely go to the Ferry Building, just because you have Cowgirl, you have Hog Island oysters, you have so many different things that you can, Brown Sugar Kitchen, you can get so many different things in one spot, I think is a good place to go.
So are you into cookbooks? Are you reading, them?
Yes.
So what are the...
Well, my mom's a librarian, so books have always been super important in my life. And whether it's collecting first edition cookbooks or all the fancy new beautiful cookbooks, it's a constant with me. We have a library at our house, and then we have a couple shelves in the restaurant of books as well.
Great. So what are the top 3 cookbooks that inspired you the most?
Ones that I always go to that have probably the most stains on are normally bread books, fermentation books, and pastry, because I've always kind of done my own pastries. We make our own bread, and then we ferment a lot of things. It's not my strong background in the sense like I wasn't professionally trained just in bread or just in pastry. So I always go back to like the arts of fermentation, bread, and then the elements of dessert, because like you can just start seeing the technique and then you apply your own technique to it. So those would be the 3 kind of books that I always go to the most.
So you've been to culinary school, correct? Well, cooking school.
Yes.
Yeah. So what is one rule that you have learned in cooking school that every home cook should know?
And I don't know if I learned it in cooking school or like working while I was in school, but something that I think is really important that a lot of people don't do is in meat cookery is letting meat rest. So many people just want to slice right into it. And that is just going to ruin this piece of meat that you took all this time to cook properly. So definitely resting your meat is something I'm always like very I take meat cooking very seriously. And when I'm training people, I'm always like, it's all about the rest.
Okay. So when you're talking resting, so for like a home cook that have maybe no idea, and then they're saying like, okay, what do you mean? How long?
Well, I mean, it definitely would vary, but like at least, 5 minutes of like letting the meat just sit there. And then all the juices kind of, when heat's applying, all the juices are kind of like flowing. And if you were to cut it, all of the juices would come out, which would leave you with a dry piece of meat. But if you keep it all locked up, everything kind of settles back into the muscle. So then when you slice, all that juice is in the meat that you're going to, you'll taste instead of it being on your cutting board.
Okay. And this applies to barbecue as well, correct?
All meat, chicken, meat, all things.
Okay.
Pork.
Cool. Chef, thank you so much. I really appreciate the fact that, you could allocate, almost an hour talking with me. And it was great to have you on the show.
Oh, no, thank you so much for having me. It was an honor.
Thank you for listening today. It was great to have Chef Kim Alter from Nightbird in San Francisco, as a guest on the show. I hope you enjoy listening to the conversation. And if you did, please make sure to share this episode with other chefs or any of your foodie friends. You can share it directly from the phone, or you can go on the website flavorsunknown.com. Remember to subscribe to the show, and please leave a review and a rating. In 2 weeks, it will be, in fact, the 1-year episode for the show Flavors Unknown. I cannot believe that I reached 1 year of doing this podcast. And it will be a special episode. At this time, the role will be reversed, as one of my friends mentioned that it would be great that someone interviews me. So my good friend Kate, known as well as Intoxicate Foodies on Instagram, will be interviewing me. So if you want to learn a bit more about the hosts of the show, then listen to the upcoming episode that will be number 27. I see you in 2 weeks. And until then, remember that people who love to eat are always the best people.
You've just enjoyed another delicious episode of Flavors Unknown. Hungry for more? Hit subscribe. Tell us where you're listening from by leaving a review. And for social media and show notes, head to flavorsunknown.com.